This is important stuff
for you to know.
Welcome to the show. This is Tony.
And this is Javier.
This is the show where we talk about what we believe may be important stuff.
But in the end, it's for you to decide.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Javier, today I have an interesting discussion, an interesting topic that I'd like to discuss that many people are faced with in their lives, some in a small way, some in a major way. And it's about change, facing change in your life, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your job, in a career, in a relocation. But it could be smaller things too. Changing the way you interact with people, changing the way you speak, changing the way you approach decision making, whatever it might be. This is a topic and an issue that people struggle with all the time. It's been shown that change produces the greatest level of frustration and anxiety in people. Many people are dealing with changes, especially in these times, economic uncertainty and the employment market, financial situations. It's causing a lot of stress in society. So I'd like to talk a little bit about change. Maybe we can analyze the change and make some suggestions on better approaches to handle change and come up with some conclusions for people. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a great topic. You mentioned that some people are facing changes in their lives. Actually, I think I had to make an observation.
Mm-hmm.
It is not some people. Everybody is constantly facing changes in their lives, whether it's voluntary, whether it's involuntary. And if you go back to the Big Bang, if you believe in the Big Bang theory, or if you believe in the biblical explanation of how we came to be as human beings, change has been around on Earth, or actually in the universe, for 14 billion years. It is now almost known for a fact, since recently they discovered this particle. Remember? I don't know if you read about this. Okay. They can prove that around 14 billion years, we had the Big Bang, where this universe that we have was created. Since that time, our universe has been changing constantly. And we know that the different ages, Ice Age, blah, 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 the dinosaurs. So change is a constant. I know everybody says it's like a cliche. The only constant is change. But change is happening every day.
Yeah, you bring up a good point on the dinosaurs. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. They didn't adapt to the change that was taking place. So sometimes change can overwhelm.
Well, they adapted because they had to adapt to change when the only change that they could not adapt was a catastrophic change, which is what apparently happened. Okay, some meteorite or a huge meteorite hit the Earth, and it produced so much dust that it blocked the sun, and eventually almost every living thing died. Okay, and it took millions of years again to have the single cell creatures develop, and on, and then we had all the process of evolution. If you follow that, the non-biblical explanation of how we came to be what we are today. But change is constant. Daily there are influences around us that are inducing us to change. So we're all facing changes on our daily lives, and what is critical is not the change by itself, it's how to react to changes. Some people are not prone to change because of circumstances, and they stay anchored to what they have been doing in the past, and they want to continue, and they expect to continue doing the same things. And when they have to face a situation where things around them are changing, they don't know what to do. And that's why they feel what you said. It's anxiety,
Yeah.
anguish, fear, and sometimes they don't know what to do.
Yes, it has a really, with many people, a debilitating effect. Do you think maybe that one suggestion we might make here with people on how they face and address change? First, prioritize it. You see a lot of people overreact to small changes when, in fact, others aren't reacting as much to a much larger change. So I think an individual first has to prioritize what is the level and impact of the change. Would you agree with that?
Well, definitely. I mean, everybody reacts differently to change. There are many factors: age, cultural background, even religious backgrounds. When things are challenging them, they're asking them to adapt to a new situation. They have to follow. Maybe they have to behave in a certain way, and to some of them it will become natural to adapt. Some people will not, and especially when you're talking about changes that will affect beliefs, religion.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that we have to go back and analyze, where do changes come from? Because you have, for example, you have changes in the environment, and I'm not talking about climate,
Yeah.
or warming. I'm just saying that the environment, it's always generating changes in the lives of
Like
people.
economic conditions,
Economic
work,
conditions, political conditions,
education,
health,
security.
aging. I mean, you name it. We're bombarded with opportunities or situations of change constantly. So you have to have a frame of mind that will induce you to embrace change. But the first thing that you have to know is you have to identify a situation of change that is confronting you. You have to know what is the change that is coming upon you. Number one, because then you'll probably know what are the probable ways in which you can adapt to that change.
Let's go through some practical examples of that, because those are good. Changes around you, these are things that you have no control over. They just happen to you. So what does a person need to do? Let's take some practical ones. Security, for example. Suddenly, over a period of years, you observe that there is more crime activity in your neighborhood. There is more of a fearful, harmful situation occurring. People are afraid to go out and walk through their neighborhood. The population is changing maybe around you, maybe because of economics, maybe because of population migration, whatever it might be. What should that person do? Let's say they're sitting in their home and they identify. Maybe they've lived for 25 years in a home and they identify the world changing around them in their neighborhood. What should they do? What can we suggest?
Well, the first thing, again, is to identify change. Let's say that example that you're giving me now. You have been living in a neighborhood for 25 years and you're used to the neighbors, you're used to the traffic, you're used to a lot of things that are natural to you because you have been experiencing them for 25 years. So you have to identify what is the change. Okay, is it cultural change because maybe you have more people from foreign countries moving into your neighborhood? Is it a political change because now let's say the government is more intrusive in your life and they're putting more regulations for you to live, and they do that, know. What about technology? And this is one of the changes. When I talk about environmental changes, technology is one of them. I mean, we're facing changes in technology by the hour.
Oof. You just buy a new TV.
Well, we are a good example. I mean, we're using the latest technology. We're using a laptop and
all the equipment,
all electronic equipment to do this show.
But just buy a new TV. Trying to figure out the remote control for this TV, the technology.
And then you have so many options, which is another thing. You have so many options. There's so much information out there that sometimes you're just, overwhelmed by everything that is coming your way and you don't know how to react. So you have to be very open, number one, to perceive that change is coming your way, even before it happens. But you have to have your mind open to see change is coming this way. I have to be ready, which I think is one of the recommendations that I have for people. Try to think out of the box. Look around yourself. Look at what the newspapers are saying about new developments. Look even at the geopolitical situation in the world. What is happening? What is happening in Europe, in Asia? All on and on, so that you are ready to follow. Number one, to embrace the change, because there's nothing you can do to prevent it, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to react in a way that you can survive, or you can adapt to the change. Let's not be too dramatic to say survive, but you have to adapt to change.
But there are a lot of neighborhoods that change quickly, and people become victims of that change, whether it's economics or cultural, and now they're faced with a decision. They either stay in the home and not go outside because of security or fear. What can they do? Well, they have to move. Well, what else?
Well, you talk about victimized. For you to be a victim, you have to accept what is happening around you. Although you can move, or you can protest, or you can do something. And this is one of the things that people should do. Once you understand that change is happening, they have to look at what are the alternatives that they have. So the message is that it is not for you to be afraid of change and reject change and say that I'm not going to accept that, and it's not going to happen to me. Like, I will never use a laptop. I will never use an iPad, on and on, okay, because I'm used to my TV. No, you have to realize that it's happening, and many of the changes you cannot control. Some you may be able to control, like natural changes, because of aging, for example, or you have some physical deficiency that you have to adapt because you're losing your eyesight or whatever, and you have to adapt yourself.
In many ways, you do have to adapt. So you're saying you recognize, identify, and then in many ways you have to adapt. What if you want to or need to affect a change to occur? Suddenly you have a young family and you're out of work. The company went bankrupt, moved away. You're out of work. A change has to take place. That takes a special person. That's a real challenge in life. I want to throw something else out to you, because I've observed people in these situations that are pushed to the brink. They're pushed to the end. And you watch such miraculous things occur in people's lives. They don't just happen. People cause them to happen. They dig down deep because they have to. Courage. I think this is a characteristic that people have.
I think everybody has.
Everybody has
courage, and we have talked about this before in another show. I think everybody has the potential to be courageous.
Yeah.
And when you're pushed against the wall, you have no idea what many people do and what most of us are capable of doing when we decide that we have to take action.
Webster defines courage. I want to talk about this, get your thoughts. Webster defines courage as mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. That's a lot going on there. That's a lot going on.
Now, many times it's all of the above. You're
all of the above.
The people who lost their job, lost a relative, have physical problems, health problems, and sometimes it all happens at once. I mean, you don't know how much courage you have.
How do you know when you have courage?
Until you like I said, you're pushed almost to the edge, and then suddenly you realize that you got to do something.
Do you see?
Nobody. I don't think nobody's ready to give up and die. Well, it may be in some very extreme situations, like you may be in the middle of the ocean and you realize there's no way out. I mean, I'm just going to drown or whatever. But unfortunately, that happens to some people. But in normal situations, to me, that may be abnormal. But in normal situations, there's so much dump on you, so many situations of dramatic changes in your life, and you'll be amazed as how people react. And you look at history. I mean, the things that people have done to survive, nations, individuals,
Right. World
I mean,
wars,
world
persecution.
wars, and we came out of those. So it looks like we, as human beings, have the potential to do it. And now we're getting into something that I think it's critical to realize, because it looks like we're now only focusing on individual change. But the only way that we can get out of this mess that the world is in, and we are in a big mess in every aspect, okay, is what I would call collective change. Sometime in the not too far future, collectively, all of us, I mean, all the inhabitants of this world are going to have to start making collective decisions so that we can survive, or we can make sure that future generations will survive.
Give me an example.
I mean, religious wars, for example.
Uh-huh.
And I know this is a very difficult topic to talk about, and maybe that's another show. But I think there has to be a point of confluence, of interest, of people from different faiths, different religions, when they're going to have to realize that we have to get together, and we cannot impose our beliefs on everybody, and we're going to have to be able to negotiate and live, and come to a conclusion that we can live together. Okay, with respecting the rights of others. So this is what I say about collective. Okay, for example, the environment, a lot of things that are challenging us today. Maybe we can work them out collectively. Okay, I know this sounds utopic, but either we do it, or I don't know what's going to happen in the not too far away future. So you have to adapt individually and also collectively. You look at countries. You look at some countries that you and I know about in Latin America, where the political situation it's so critical that, I mean, some of the possible scenarios are horrendous. Like civil wars and so on. And everybody has to change as an individual and as a society to prevent a catastrophe happening. It could happen in a town. It could happen. It could happen to small collective units. It could happen to the whole world. So this is what I mean. It's an attitude. For example, something that would also be threatened or challenged. It's ethics and morals. I mean, is there such a thing as one moral that everybody has to follow, or ethical behavior? Well, it's different depending on where you come from and what is your religion. So again, here there has to be like an amalgamation of ideas, of cultures, of behavior, so that we can all live in peace.
Someone once said, "Let's recognize the likenesses, and not the differences." It's easy to recognize the differences, but as it affects change needs leaders. Leaders show courage. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think you can see courage by looking at a person? Because sometimes you can see leadership qualities, but can you see courage by looking at a person?
No. Not only he's really, or she is really challenged. I mean, the history. There are so many examples in history of people that at the right moment they became leaders, and when nobody expected them to become such. So I think it's a point where you're challenged by or you're threatened that courage.
So at that moment, you draw in on this characteristic
at that moment, yeah,
of difficulty, fear, perseverance. whether you're motivated by a moral decision or ethical decision or just a life-threatening decision.
But then you have anchors that prevent you that prevent people from embracing change, and this is a concern that I've always had. You know, the two famous examples. One is frogs that are put in a
pot
with
boiling water,
and they start raising the temperature, and eventually and the frog stays in. It gets used to the higher temperatures until it boils. It's killed. And the other one is one that I always find fascinating. It was an experiment that was made some time ago. They put 4 chimpanzees in an empty room with a ladder. The ones that people use at houses for contractors.
Like a 6-foot ladder.
Okay. And they put, on top of the ladder, they put bananas. And they had the 4 chimpanzees, they brought in the 4 chimpanzees. And of course, when the chimpanzees saw the banana, one of the chimpanzees immediately went up the ladder. But at the moment that he got on the first step of the ladder, they dropped ice water on top of the chimpanzees. And it was free. It was really freezing water, and very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they got scared. So the next time that a chimpanzee, eventually, a chimpanzee started going up the ladder, and the other 3 would jump on him, and just knock the hell out of them
to stop him.
Because they hated the cold water. This went on for a while until eventually they didn't go to get the bananas, which is natural for them.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time, they removed one of those chimpanzees and they brought in a new one, which didn't know about the water.
Yes.
So as soon as he got into the group and he looked up and he saw the banana, he started climbing. And the other 3 jumped on him and beat the hell out of him. And next time he did it, maybe he did it another time and they beat him again. And the third time he said, no, I'm not going up the ladder no more. A few days later, they removed the second one. Another chimpanzee, and brought a new one. What did the new one do? Same thing. He tried to go up the ladder, and not only the 2 that were in the original group beat the hell out of that one, the new guy who had come in
also
a few days before did the same thing to the second chimpanzee. They brought in a third one, same thing. They brought finally a 4th chimpanzee. But what is curious is that in the meantime, they would never drop water again. Only the first time.
Behavior modification.
Exactly. So they came to a point where there were 4 chimpanzees sitting in the floor watching these bananas on the ladder, and none of them went up. Now imagine if they could communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And one would say, if they could talk, and one would say, hey guys, what's with the bananas? How come we're not going to the bananas? And what do you think the response would be?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But nobody's going up. So this is this is change behavior, and this is happening around the world, where people they're behaving in a way and they don't know why they're doing it. Maybe because their parents did, or their peers did, or the
so
society.
So this is collective change in a negative.
Yeah, what I'm saying, these people would not accept change because they were not induced or educated to change when circumstances are different. They just said, I don't know what is happening, but I'm not going up the ladder. Why? I don't know, but I'm not going up.
So there was a methodology they could have used to reason how to get to the bananas,
right?
Or how to more effectively change.
That's what I'm saying. When you need a collective change, okay, there has to be a change in that small society of 4 chimpanzees to realize, you know what, we have been sitting here hungry for days, and nobody has gone up the ladder. You know what? I'm gonna see what happens. A very courageous chimpanzee.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? I'm gonna do something different.
Yeah.
He went up the ladder and nothing happened.
I watched a good movie in the theater not too long ago about Jackie Robinson. This was a man that epitomized courage. courage. Against all odds, he stepped into a situation which was so filled with tension and aggressiveness. And this man drew down and persevered through such negative conditions because he saw the end result. Like the monkeys never saw the result of how to achieve the bananas at the top of the ladder. Jackie Robinson saw the possibility of what his courage. He didn't recognize that he had courage. He just persevered. He knew he had to stay with this to get through.
Gandhi. Martin Luther King. I mean, you had so many people
against all
Lech
odds.
Walesa in
Poland.
Remember Poland?
Yes.
So I mean, you have people who have one day said, you know what, this is the end. I'm fed up with it. Okay, and they get over stupidity. Sometimes it's a stupidity. I mean, if a witness of what was happening with the monkeys would say they are stupid, why are they sitting down when they have bananas? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember Einstein, said something like, "There are only two infinites that I know: the universe and human stupidity."
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about the universe. So. Sometimes we act that way because we were brought up to behave in a certain way, and we're not going to change the way we dress, the way we eat, the way we say things, the way we interact with people who are different from us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, maybe it's too strong to say that is stupidity, but to an witnesses from space, an alien will say, "Well, these guys are stupid. They're killing themselves."
And some people refuse. Those that refuse to change or make even small adaptations cause problems not just collectively, but for themselves, because the change becomes much more difficult. To summarize, how can we sum this up for listeners out there? Change that they're dealing with in their lives.
Don't be afraid of change. Embrace change. Realize that it's happening. There are some changes that you can affect, that you can maybe prevent. There are things that you can do maybe to prevent dramatic changes in happening to you. One of them, for example, is alcohol,
mm-hmm.
drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are many things that are changing the way you live that you have the power to change.
Yes.
Some of them you cannot change. You cannot change maybe the way the universe it's expanding, it's behaving.
Yes.
And people say that I don't know how many billion years from now where the whole universe is going to disappear into one single. All the energy will be formed concentrated in one single mass, and we will be gone. Okay, I mean we cannot affect that. There are things that are the cosmological that we cannot change.
So
okay, but there are things that we can affect even within ourselves and within our family, and if the simpler units like yourself and your family can start changing for the good and for the benefit of everybody, eventually that the huge change can happen.
So courage, to get back to the dictionary definition, moral decisions with perseverance in the face of fear and difficulty. So identify the change, embrace the change, persevere, and find a way through it.
Think positive. Think that a change, for example, people who lose their jobs. And I read a book years ago I really liked. This was an executive in Madison Avenue. He was a big executive in an advertising agency, and he lost his job. And he was making good money, and he was practically homeless, living in a single room somewhere in Manhattan. And one day he used to go to a Starbucks every day when he was a big executive. And he kept doing that, and he was running out of money. And one day he went there, and the lady who was working at Starbucks said, "You know what's wrong with you? You look sad. Every time you come here, I see that you have a sad face, you know." He said, "Well, I lost my job and I don't have any money." And she said, "You want to work for us?"
Huh.
And he got a job cleaning the floors, cleaning the tables, and he started going up the ladder, you know. And he said, "This is the best thing that has happened to me in my life."
Oh,
He
wow.
was able to adapt to change, like
Courage.
probably, if you know, if you look at Darwin, the way
Mm-hmm.
animals were adapting to
Yes.
environmental changes and so on.
That takes a
So-
lot of courage, too, because you need to dig down for self-concept, to go a different direction.
There comes a time in life when you don't have an option.
Mhm.
It's either you change or you die.
Yes.
It's like, what is the opposite of change? It's stagnation.
Stagnation. Mhm.
And if you don't move, if you don't eat, I mean, let's say, you know, people who end up in a jungle
Mhm.
and they never ate live animals or insects or cockroaches or bats or whatever. And one day they say, "Listen, I cannot continue without eating," and they start eating everything that they can find. And some stories that we know, episodes, even human flesh.
Mhm.
So you have to change, and you'll be amazed as how you can adapt to threatening situations that you will be confronted in your lifetime.
Terrific. I think we better end it there. Thanks for tuning in today. Remember, courage. Everybody has it.
And welcome change. Welcome change.
Welcome
It will
to
make you a
change.
better person.
You'll find the courage. Thanks a lot for
Thanks,
listening today, folks. We'll be right back after this short break.
Thank you.
Today's segment is brought to you by theInternetEnglishTeacher.com. Need English for your job or travel? The Internet English Teacher, from the comfort of your home or office, can provide via Skype live conversational instruction and lessons. Learn the structures of English. And now, featuring for TOEFL preparation, the InternetEnglishTeacher.com online. Give us a call, folks. Welcome back, everybody. Javier, you know, I want to pick up on something we've done in the past in other segments. We've talked about warning labels on products and signs around the country. Here today, I want to talk about headlines that are in the news that we pick up and report it. I think proofreading might be a lost art in that business. But this could be important stuff.
Or is it?
Well, let's decide. Let's talk
Okay.
about a few of these.
Go ahead.
Here's a headline that came out on the newspaper. Miners refuse to work after death. That could be important.
Yes. I mean, imagine if you can work. I mean, would you like to work after you die? I mean, aren't you told that, you know, if you die, if you believe in the afterlife, you will go to heaven or whatever, and you will lead a perpetual happy life? Why would you want to work? I mean, who told you that you have to work all your life and then you die and then you have to continue working?
So that's why they refuse.
Yeah, but watch out. Because this could be an error, not only proofreading, but the way it was written, the headline. Okay? Because maybe they're not talking about refusing to work after you die. Maybe there was an accident at the mine. Somebody died at the mine.
Now
and
I
they
get it. Now I get it.
So they say miners are refusing to work after the accident that killed so-and-so, or that killed a coal miner. But, you know, they don't have enough space in the headline, so the guy wrote it like this. So maybe, you know, I will give the guy who wrote the headline the benefit of the doubt. Now, I would probably penalize the proofreader, he could have maybe changed the order a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe, but
because it's important. If you're refusing to work after you die, that's important. People should know that.
it is
you
also,
shouldn't have to
yes.
work.
Yeah, you shouldn't work. No.
Okay.
I have another one here. Well, may I have one for you
Sure,
now?
sure,
Okay,
go,
because
throw
I
it.
also, this one says that police begin campaign to run down jaywalkers.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe this is a population reduction. We have budgets that are blasting out everywhere in a lot of cities, going bankrupt.
A tough sheriff, maybe?
Yes, tough sheriff in town. So maybe this is a campaign, a way to reduce the population so that they can reduce the obligation and liabilities of the city. So they're just going to run down jaywalkers.
Eliminate them.
Just eliminate them.
Physically.
Yeah, physically. I would think it sounds like a political stand that somebody has taken pretty strong. Just eliminate the population.
You think he could be reelected after people find out what he's doing?
Well, some of these politicians are reelected after doing some pretty serious things. So I would watch out if the police are targeting jaywalkers. So if you're going to cross the street, stay in the walkway. Don't cross at your own liberty.
Now, could there be another interpretation of the headline that they're going to act strongly against jaywalkers or severe or?
Okay, so you want to be logical about this, right?
No,
I kind of like my idea to reduce population, but okay, logically, they probably have many people crossing the street.
I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the sheriff.
Okay.
Poor guy,
Yeah, so they probably have a lot of people crossing the street illegally, and they're going to
eliminate them, not eliminate them.
Down.
Yeah, crack down. Maybe that's the word, yes. Not run down. Okay.
Okay. Here's one for you. This is pretty serious, and I think this is important, because this is a real commitment to science.
You look serious.
Yes.
This is okay.
Panda mating fails. Veterinarian takes over.
Oh, my God.
This is a commitment to science. I think this is important.
Well, there are religious implications. There are many implications here. If you read it the way if I understand correctly, you just said that the panda mating fails and a veterinarian takes over.
Yes. Yeah, he takes over. He jumps in, does his part for science. That's what it sounds like to me.
Wow. Now, it doesn't say if it's a male or female panda or male or female veterinarian.
No.
Because it all depends. This is subject to many interpretations. Okay. We have science involved. We have, some morals involved, or we have some professional activities involved. Okay, you see?
Yeah, I got it.
It all depends on your interpretation.
But
because I don't know if let's say it was a female panda. Okay, and the veterinarian is a guy. So how can he help? Are we talking about crossbreeding?
Well. He takes over. This is a real commitment to science if he jumps in there and just takes over.
But here, if that is the case, the guy wants to jump into the
mix.
The mix. What happens with authorities? Because if they're announcing that he's going to take over, so they know that he's going to do it. Now, would the police allow him to do it? Would the zoo allow him to do it?
Wow. Maybe a lot of people didn't know about this or don't know about it.
What if, and I throw this to you,
okay.
What if actually what they're saying is that the experiment to have the two pandas mate failed, so now maybe the veterinarian is going to try some artificial insemination or some other experiment?
Artificial insemination, that's a big headline.
Yeah,
that's long.
Yeah, but it doesn't sell.
Yeah, it doesn't sell. No.
It doesn't sell. So
better that the veterinarian just takes over.
Okay, I have another one for you.
Okay.
Something went wrong in a jet crash. Expert says.
Well, this sounds like a highly educated technician here. You think something went wrong? It's like the lawyer asking the defendant on trial for in a murder case. When he's talking to the coroner, he questions and says, "Were there any signs of physical abuse?" And the witness replies, "Other than the murder?"
Right.
So, yeah, the expert makes a real judgment here. Something went wrong here in this jet crash, I think.
Would you expect that from experts from the private sector, let's say from the airline, or maybe from the regulatory agency, like a public official?
Well, it says an expert. It tells me it's somebody from the National Transportation Authority that investigates these. He's an expert.
Uh-huh. So he he thinks that something strange happened.
Yeah.
Because there was an accident, right?
Yeah.
So is that what you're interpreting?
Yeah, so he looked at the crash and said, what's wrong with this jet? Something went wrong.
Quite. I mean, the guy really knows how to observe.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
That's a pretty keen observation. How about this one? We just talked about the court. Juvenile court to try shooting defendants.
To try shooting defendant?
Yeah, I guess they want to see, maybe this works better. Just shoot the people. Wow, these headlines want to eliminate people.
I mean, what is this? I mean, so they're unhappy about the way the trial's going, and they decided, we're not going to try him, we're not going to waste taxpayers' money, and we're going to shoot the defendant?
Well, it says they're going to try this. They're going to try shooting defendants.
No, that is not going to fly, I tell you. There will be a public outrage when they start shooting people in the courts,
Yeah.
Unless...
I would think that's a violation of their rights, their civil rights.
Definitely.
To be shot.
Oh, that would be totally unacceptable these days,
Yeah.
But what if if we really pay attention to the way it was written, what if it says, juvenile court to try, shooting defendant? A person who's being tried for shooting somebody.
So he gets his day in court.
Exactly. They're going to try a person who shot somebody.
So they should give him a lawyer in the court just to make sure that...
Well, maybe if somebody reads this headline, maybe they would take the law upon their hands,
Yeah, because he should have a lawyer in court. The prosecution might just shoot him.
And maybe metal detector, just in case.
Yeah.
Somebody... okay, so...
Well, Javier, we've come to the end of the show.
We certainly had a good time, and we hope our listeners did too.
Maybe along the way, someone even learned something.
And remember, if you think something is...
important stuff.
Let us know, and we will talk about it.
So, until next time, hasta la vista.